Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into the Land and Home Show. Today we are meeting with another awesome farmer and we're going to talk about a lot. Hey there, I'm Stephen J.B. Davis, your land specialist and residential realtor here in Kentucky, Central Kentucky, and beyond. And I'm here with James Jones, which I guess in a manner of speaking, we're kind of related, but like not really. So my husband and his wife are first cousins, and we're married to each of them, and that's how I know James.
Cousin-in-laws.
We're cousin-in-laws. I like that. We're cousin-in-laws. So James, there's so much that I want to ask you. And first, I just want to thank you because you're busy. You're very busy, as people will learn. But can you just describe, just to start, who you are, I guess what you do? We know you're a farmer, but maybe tell people what kind of farmer you are, and then give us a little background about you and why you decided to stay in such a challenging and I imagine hopefully rewarding line of work.
That's a lot of questions in one question.
I know. I'm real bad about that.
That's okay.
The first two are easy, right, though?
Yeah, well, remind me if I forget one.
All right.
My name is James Jones, and we're on a farm here in Somerset, Kentucky, where we raise a variety of vegetable crops. We have cattle and hay, and been farming my whole life, ever since I was probably 6 years old. I can remember pulling tobacco plants out of the beds and following tobacco setter. Family raised tobacco up to I was about 25 or something, and the tobacco, the price in tobacco wasn't good. It was tough to make a living in tobacco, so we started looking for some other ways to be productive on the farm and still be able to stay on the farm. So we got into vegetable farming, and today we grow about a dozen different vegetables and have a local retail market where we retail.
Like a brick and mortar store.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Kind of, they call it a roadside stand or something like that, but it's a physical structure. Overhead, come inside, get your vegetables, produce, and it's been good to us. And growing up on the farm, when you get out and you farm and you dig in the dirt, I always tell my kids they come with me and we'll be planting a crop or something, and we'll be digging in the dirt, and I just tell them, be careful, watch it, that dirt, it'll get on your hands and it'll get in your blood, and when it gets in your blood, you just can't get it out. It's just a part of you, and that's kind of where I'm at. I'm stuck here. I love it here. I love it. It's part of my life, and it's what I want to do the rest of my life. Now, farming at times can be good, financially at times it can be bad, and so I hold down another job outside of this. I'm an engineer for the highway department, so I do double duty, work there from 8 to 4:30, or depending on demand, maybe a little later, and then come home and work all afternoon and on the farm. Get up of a morning, pick corn before we go to work, and work on the weekends as well on the farm. So it's a lot, but it's a labor of love. You can't do it unless you just love it. Love being out here.
I can see why. I've driven around just a little bit. I've not explored much of Somerset before today, but I've actually been in Somerset all day, all work related, shockingly, and it's a beautiful city, but where you have your tracts of land, you've got some great views. You've got some really beautiful crops. I got a watermelon and onion, which I'm very excited about. And you grow so much in so many different places. So if you could, I want to get into more specifically what you grow and then how you grow it, because I've not seen your method with any of the farmers that I know. And granted, I don't know every farmer in this state. So, there's lots of ways to do it. And so you grow a lot and you do it in a kind of a different way.
Try to go kind of through the crops. We grow tomatoes, sweet corn, potatoes, there's a potato patch right over there, cucumbers, squash, green beans, watermelon, cantaloupe. Basically, if you can grow it in Kentucky and you can eat it on your table, we try to grow that. Most of our crops are on what you call Plasticulture system. So we pull a sheet of plastic. It's got a drip tape underneath it that helps us reduce the weed pressure, conserve water, moisture. We do irrigate most of those crops, but that plastic barrier helps keep down evaporation, so you have to irrigate less frequently. And then also it allows you to supplement your crops with fertilizer and stuff
Oh,
as
like through
needed.
the same like system that the water comes
Yeah,
through and
so
stuff.
as the water pulls through, it'll draw just a little bit of fertilizer and
Oh,
then
okay.
distribute it to the crop.
Wow, that's pretty ingenious. Have you always done it that way? When you got out of the tobacco business, did you go directly into the plasticulture?
That's the way we did it. Yeah, and it had took, you know, there's quite a few farmers around here do that, and it had taken pretty good hold when I got into the business. I actually got started, a good friend of my dad's who lives over in Russell County. He's about 70, I guess he's getting close to 80 now, but he actually came over when we were looking into getting the business and helped me lay our first field of plastic. You know,
Okay.
he had a plastic layer, and he was a coach and a mentor for me, and that really helped a lot. And that's the way a lot of us farmers are. You know, that's the way you learn. You learn from
Yeah.
somebody else, and somebody's always there to lend a helping hand. Especially a lot of this. Most farmers are over 65, right? And they
Yeah.
realize that they're not going to be able to continue, and they like to pass that knowledge on down to the younger generation when they can.
I think that's I don't like generalities a lot of times, but in the people in the farming community I've met, even though I'm not looking at like getting into the business, I would say that everything you just said is true about sharing knowledge. I mean, you all are,
Yeah.
because no one succeeds alone. You know, you don't succeed alone, you don't fail alone. And I found so many open doors and open arms, and I love that about, at least here in Kentucky. It's probably true everywhere else too, but here in Kentucky, that's been greatly my experience. And I try to share that with you all in the sense that, you know, moving to a new place or being in a foreign place can be intimidating, but when you're really seeking knowledge and you're not, and you humble yourself, I guess, people will latch onto that, and they will generally be receptive to helping you if you're willing to learn and work, and learn.
Yeah.
But
And I'll say, I think people that are in our kind of vegetable growing, even the farming, they realize that if I grow good quality vegetables and people come out and buy that just helps other people, right? We're raising awareness that it's different than what you get at your Kroger or local supermarket. It's a better quality, and the more people you have getting exposed to that and raising awareness, it just helps the other folks in the industry.
yeah, a rising tide like raises all ships. And I will say too, I agree with him, because I had some strawberries back in May that were bomb, and they did not last long. I ate all of those when everybody left the party. Between that night and the next morning. So another thing that I am curious about, I'm looking at my notes. You guys know I'm always looking at notes. But if you could take us through kind of a growth cycle of, I don't know whether it's your favorite crop, most difficult crop, your easiest crop, but by you growing so much, I would imagine you generally have a lot going on almost all the time. I mean, even in the season when things are dead and sleeping, you still have stuff to do. So take folks through just I guess the beginning to end of one crop.
You know, people think that as a farmer you're only working during harvest season, but when we look back, January, February, you know, we start ordering seeds. We'll just use tomatoes for example. We start those in the greenhouses. We put the seeds in trays in early February, late March.
Okay.
Then hopefully we're able to move those out by mid-April. We're planting them in the ground, and then a lot of times we'll cover those up with canvas because it's still a little cool in Kentucky, and that helps them protect them from frost and keeps them growing pretty good. We'll start picking those tomatoes middle into June, and then back up. I'm sorry to go backwards.
No, that's all right.
But in May we're planting our second crop of tomatoes.
Sure.
You know, so that we've got. You can pick tomatoes for 4 to 6 weeks of a good tomato crop, and when that one ends, you want to be ready to go to your second crop.
Yeah.
And you know, we're wrapping up picking usually. Sometimes we grow pumpkins, and that'll push us into fall. That'll push us into Halloween, and you know, you're wrapping up frost. A lot of times you're trying to get crops brought in before the frost because the frost kills a lot of those things, and then after that, you got to go clean your garden up. You know, pull all your stakes, cut all your strings, lift all your plastic, and if you're fortunate enough to get that done in time, you can sow a little cover crop to help your ground. You know, we like to try and do that.
And that's what we saw back at your homestead, like your main spot. You said you had a bunch of Italian rye, was it?
Yeah.
As your cover crop?
Ryegrass, yeah.
Ryegrass, okay.
Italian rye, yeah.
Very, very good. Can we move on to cattle really quick?
Yeah.
Because you also raise cattle. Now, are they beef cattle, or are you just doing this for, like, do you sell most of them, and like what's your cattle operation like?
It's basically commercial beef cattle.
Commercial beef,
We
okay.
sell most of those at the auction, but we do usually feed up and fatten out 3 or 4 beef to sell that at our market.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And have you always, was this something you did in conjunction with tobacco, or was this the post-tobacco form of the farm?
We pretty much always had cattle. Now
Okay.
we didn't have that kind of direct sales. We always took them to the auction and stuff. But once we got into the vegetable markets, we saw the opportunity to sell some beef to local folks, and take advantage of getting a fresher product to those people.
And man, the difference is, it's so obvious. Like, people talk about it, and it's not like they're just like hyping. Like, when you have something from a person that, I don't know, it's hard to describe, but it's very obvious when you taste it, whether it's a strawberry or a steak or a tomato. It's just, it is better. And that's no knock on mass-produced things. We do have millions of people to feed, but if you can support local, you really should. And I won't like proselytize you too much, but I think just by me being with a local farmer is probably good enough for you to understand how important they are. But outside of the beef, I wanted you, this is kind of the open-ended part, rewards, challenges, advice. What kinds of thoughts do you have around those 3 words particular to farming?
As far as challenges, there are many. The big one is financial. It's very difficult for a farmer to get started. Just the upfront cost for the equipment, land, and things like that. But one of the things about the way we do it is you can run a profitable farm on just a few acres. 5, 6, 7 acres with some of the new. Farming has come a long ways technology-wise, and that has increased yields, which increases profitability and what you can do on a small piece of land. And really, that's where we've got to head if we're going to feed millions of people on less and less acreage every year. So that's a big challenge. It is financially. Weather. You never have a clue what it's going to do. It's a pretty nice day today.
Yeah.
Last week we had about 3 days in a row of rain, 4 or 5 inches. The 2 weeks before that, we didn't get any rain. I was afraid. We raised a lot of sweet corn on bare ground, and I was really afraid we was going to have to pull out some drip tapes and go to irrigating those. But luckily, we waited it out, and the good Lord brought us a little rain.
We needed it.
Yeah.
That was a relief.
And it saved me a lot of time, labor, and money. Yeah. But you mentioned rewards. I enjoy it. That's a big reward. It's where I grew up. I enjoy taking my kids out and working with them, teaching them to work. We accomplished something. One day this week we went out, said, kids, let's go get supper. We didn't go to McDonald's. We went and they grabbed a cabbage, a few peppers, an onion, and we just cut it up there at the house and fried it up and had a good meal, And it's just the way of life that I enjoy. And really, to do it and to be successful, you need to enjoy it.
All right. Okay.
But did we get all those?
No, yeah, we got all of them. We got them all. If you had to give, I think there's a lot of advice in what you said, just like examining what you enjoy about it and what can be challenging about it. But if someone, let's just say someone that farms in another part of the country, which has been a few conversations I've had, what would be your advice? You're not comparing what it's like to be there versus here, but are there any Kentucky-specific pieces of advice that are pertinent to being on that path to success?
I think Kentucky is different than other places because of our terrain. At least in my part of Kentucky, you get over in the western part, you've got the flat fields.
The super flat, yeah.
But here, if you've got a 10-acre field that's flat, you've got a big old flat field. That's just the way it is. And it's kind of what drove us to this smaller vegetable type farming where you could get a high yield and a good return on that acreage. So if you intend on doing something similar to what I'm doing, I would suggest start out with a kind of a marketing strategy. How am I going to what product do I tend to grow, and how do I plan on selling that product.
Gotcha.
Would be a good recommendation on starting
Oh,
out.
that's
Before,
great.
before you jump in feet first, you know,
Right.
have a marketing strategy.
Yeah.
And the good thing about Kentucky is the universities here do a great job of giving information on how to grow crops and harvest and stuff like that. So if you've never farmed before, you can pick up a book and get a decent start. You know, there's a lot of things you can only learn by OJT, on the job training,
Mm-hmm.
but you can get a lot of, universities do a nice job of putting out a lot of publications.
I think that's an excellent piece of advice. I think we get a little, YouTube is great, and I don't want you to stop watching mine, but I read a lot for sure, and I like that you said picking up a book. I mean, there
Yeah.
are some really incredible tried and true things about farming. Like the last one of these that we did, we talked with Jerry on his mule powered farm, and he talked about all of these old books that he still refers back to, books that, you know, when he was a boy, they were still 30 years old. And certain things you just can't, you can go with all the new age stuff, but sometimes you don't need to change something that isn't broken either.
It's still going to take a lot of good old hard work.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, 100%.
but I would say too, don't be afraid of that innovation side. I mean,
No.
agriculture is going to have to change if we're going to feed the population.
I'd say that agriculture has been on the forefront of a lot of technology just in general. I mean, people think about, I'm not going to get super political, but there's a lot of folks that maybe don't love, I don't know, the greenhouse gases that cows make or something like that. And we can get into all that another time. But at the end of the day, farming, especially post Dust Bowl, which however you feel about how it was caused or wasn't caused, farming has been on the forefront of a lot of conservation, a lot of things that we don't even use for farming anymore because we were maybe using this kind of fertilizer, or we learned something about the way that we sprayed things. We have farmers to thank for a lot more than I think people realize. The last thing I want to touch, this is a bonus question because we didn't really get to it, or we touched on it but didn't complete the thought. Why do you grow so many types of things? I don't know any farmer, again, and I don't know all of them, but I don't know any farmer in my universe that grows such a diverse, peach trees we saw today. Like that's awesome. And you've got these crazy peppers and tomatoes and potatoes and hay, like you're all over the place. What is the thought behind doing that?
One thing that stuck with me from when I was young and even my early 20s when we were raising tobacco is we were at the mercy of the tobacco market, right? If prices were down on tobacco, it was a tough year.
You take what they give you.
You wondered if you could start it again next year. And that just that ingrained in me, and my solution for that was diversification, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to grow as many different crops as I can. So if one of them gets froze out, one of my early crops get froze out, I can move on to the next crop, the next variety. If beans aren't bringing, you know, good money, then tomatoes maybe are. And if I've got a dozen different crops, that increases my chance for success. Now it does take a lot of planning up front and a lot of research and education to educate yourself on how the different crops respond and what to give them and how to treat them. But for me, it's well worth it, and it makes it more exciting. I mean, I've always enjoyed a challenge, and if you it's enjoyable one day you're picking tomatoes, well, you get a break, you get to go pick corn or potatoes, you know. So that little bit of a change up is
breaks up the monotony.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah. Cool.
And that's the thing, I keep referring back to it. When we grow tobacco, you'd spend all summer chopping. Then you get a month of topping, and then a month and a half of cutting and hauling tobacco. And it was just it was a bit of a change, but it's the same old thing. Where today, you know, like I said, picking beans, I might pick beans till 10 o'clock, you know, then we go pick cucumbers, pick corn before that, and then you jump to tomatoes and watermelons. It's just a good change up, you know, break up the monotony. And then the key is that diversification, so that you're not hit by one big. If something's not good, you're still good.
It's like a portfolio of stocks or really any other kind of investment, which farming is an investment in a lot of ways. So that's an awesome and helpful answer. Plus, you can't eat tobacco. So, I mean, you could, but it wouldn't turn out very great. So.
And, you know, one of the things that I think we touched on a little bit, one of the things that I think has allowed us to continue to farm, at least in our aspect, is that, you know, direct to consumer. You know, if I think back, I believe it was JFK said farmer's the only guy that buys everything at retail and sells at wholesale. Well, I tried to change at least the selling end, right? Because in tobacco we sold wholesale and we were at the mercy of the big tobacco companies. And this way, at least I have a little bit of control over the price fluctuations in what I sell. So another little piece of advice.
Is there any place, if someone is watching this and is local, that they can find you? Like whether it's I know that maybe your brother.
I'm hard to find, but they might be able to find the market. We've got a market. It's the address is 2630 West Highway 80, but we're just a little bit east of the 914-80 intersection. Just west of Somerset. Big brown building, red roof, says Jones Produce on the front.
Wonderful. Jones Produce on Highway 80. I'll make sure that's absolutely on the screen there. And then, do you ever come to Lexington to sell?
My brother does come to Lexington on Saturdays and sells at the Bluegrass Farmers Market.
Wonderful. Bluegrass Farmers Market on Saturdays.
I believe, is it at Hamburg?
Yes, it is. It's at Hamburg.
Or maybe the liquor barn across the road.
Yeah, but that's all in Hamburg.
Yeah.
So you can find him in Hamburg. And what's your brother's name?
Josh.
Josh. So Josh Jones in Lexington on Saturdays. James Jones and maybe a couple other Joneses here in Somerset. 5 days a week? 6 days a week?
6 days a week.
6 days a week.
But Sunday.
Every day but Sunday, like Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
All right. Although we eat cows and chickens. I think that's all we've got for you today. I hope this has been helpful. Please leave your comments, your questions in the the stuff below. I'm losing my words here. And if it's something I can pass along to James, then I will. But otherwise, we're going to let him get back to all of the things that he has to do. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this.
Appreciate you coming down. It's good to see you.
And for the watermelon and onion. Oh my gosh. I'm about to have a ball at home. See y'all later. Bye.